This is music, and this is a hand of first impressions with some ups and some downs. Welcome to another First Impressions video. In these videos I share with you my first impressions of the many blind buys I've picked up over the last couple of years. This time we have a handful of CDs to talk about. I listened to all of these on my CD player in my office at work. I don't know why I needed to tell you that, but I did. Anyways, up first we have Actor, and it's called Paranoia. The album is. This is a High Roller Records thing. This is super interesting. It's hard rock, heavy metal with kind of a twangy guitar tone that is a bit reminiscent of, late 70s, early 80s, new wave of British heavy metal. And I would say the core sound definitely is heavy metal, hard rock. It just has that twangy sound. Lots of awesome riffs on here, lots of great songs. One thing I find to be particularly interesting is that I also get a bit of a vibe that reminds me of 80s new wave rock and maybe even some 80s gothic rock. It's super interesting. It's a bit hard to pigeonhole this one, but I really enjoy it, and I think you probably have to listen to it on your own to make up your own mind and even to get an idea of what this sounds like. But it's good stuff in any case. Up next, Means to an End by Biohazard. Somehow this one completely escaped me when it came out. So I picked it up in a second-hand section of a record store some time ago. And so it's New York City hardcore. The band, they kind of do have their signature sound and their signature kind of almost rap kind of vocals, combined with angry yells, basically, and heavy groovy riffs. I do think this one is considerably heavier than their kind of classic output from the 90s. I do prefer their 90s output, but this one is pretty damn good too. If you like Biohazard, if you like your hardcore, the heavier stuff, metallic hardcore, and you come across a copy of this, I think it's worth picking it up for sure. I will say that there were several times where I caught myself thinking I was listening to a Propane album, but maybe it's just because they kind of oomphed up the heaviness a bit on this album. Up next, Creatures of the Dark Realm by Bloodbound. This is, it's power metal, I would say, with some traditional metal elements and lots of keyboards, and kind of the traditional metal elements are this kind of modern traditional metal. I know it's a bit of an oxymoron, but this modern traditional metal of the 2000s. It's epic, and as you can see, the band, they're also kind of going for a theatrical feel. It's the keyboards that kind of serve to build the epicness. You have some pretty cool riffs and some awesome lead guitar work, I will say that. So there are definitely a lot of pluses on here, but I do think it goes a bit too much into, your just double bass drum, happy slappy Euro power metal. So it is a bit too cheesy in places for me. And they have some very catchy chorus melodies, a lot of which have more in common with pop music than rock music, but that's fine. I actually don't have a problem with that. A lot of the Japanese metal I listen to have kind of a similar approach. I just like the melodies better on those albums. One thing that I think is very interesting is that this song here, March into War, I think it's this one as far as I remember. The chorus reminds me a bit of the old Coca-Cola jingle from Always Coca-Cola. Yeah. I'm not sponsored by them. I hate Coca-Cola actually. And also this one here, Rise of the Dragon Empire. Very similar story. Power metal. Lots of keyboards. Epicness. Um, and lots of double bass drums, but they don't go all out only double bass drums. They do have some riffs, fantastic lead guitar work, but also a bit too much into the Euro power metal territory in places for my taste. So it is a bit too cheesy, and I had to listen to both of these a couple of times, and whenever I listened to them, I went, come on, that's cheesy. Come on, I don't like it. But I caught myself several times, for example, having listened to this one, right after having listened to this one, I had to go down and do a lecture on grammar, which I love because grammar is awesome. And I caught myself whistling a lot of the melodies and having a good time whistling them. And the same thing with this one here. I've caught myself whistling and humming a lot of the melodies from these. So that kind of annoys me. I can't say I hate these because they're cheesy. Part of me doesn't like the cheesiness, but obviously part of me likes the cheesy melodies. So for now, they're probably staying in my collection, but there is a risk that they could be leaving my collection. Both also, by the way, come with some live DVDs that I haven't watched, and I'd like to watch those too. So, yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm conflicted. Some of it I don't like. Some of it I like. So, yeah, so ups and downs in these two for sure. And the last one is this one here, Behold the Abyss by Black Oath. Now, this is freaking great. It's doom metal, but it's not your typical like droning notes doom metal, and it's not your stoner doom metal. They're kind of doing their own thing. But it's not super slow, but it is kind of slow, mid-tempo maybe. It's not all out doom and gloom and misery, but it is just to entertain Garage Geek. It is melancholic. You have some great vocal melodies on here. I quite like the vocals. It's dark. There are some epic parts, but it's never cheesy. It's an album, I think, which might appeal to fans of like more traditional doom metal. It might appeal to fans of gothic metal, and I think it might also appeal to fans of kind of like heavy metal and maybe even darker hard rock. I really enjoyed listening to this, so do check it out if you are a doom metal fan. But don't expect it to be your typical like traditional doom metal. They don't sound like Candlemass or Solitude Aeturnus or I guess While Heaven Wept or anything like that, sort of the epic stuff. And they don't sound like Count Raven or Saint Vitus or anything like that. But you have still some commonalities with those artists, but they're doing their own thing. So Black Oath, pretty damn good stuff. So yeah, an interesting set of first impressions this time. A bunch that at least two I had a hard time pigeonholing. One that had escaped me completely and tricked me into sometimes thinking I was listening to another artist. And then the two Bloodbound ones, which annoyed me but also entertained me at the same time. And so yeah, there you go. I think it's best if you check them out on your own. Thanks for watching.